come back to the several points that were mentioned about the long term, which is interesting. I'll come back to that in a minute. But before we do that, I just wanted to dive a bit more into the content, because we talked a lot about the facilities and the tools. And I perhaps want to ask this question first to Heather. Like now we see a lot of courses being delivered online in video. In the lecture we talked a bit about the fidelity, the tacit knowledge that we can transfer. Do you feel that you get the same information as you would get here at the university, or does it come across the same way? And if not, is that an issue at all? How can we deliver the content? Is it suitable for us as a university to deliver this digitally?
So first of all, I think it really depends on what type of course you are teaching. Because, like, for example, I've had some courses which were online, which was morality, which is like the BA type of ethiek. And that was fine because it's just a lot of like them telling us what type of things and telling us stories. However, you see that people don't really interact anymore because you're behind a computer, so you're not gonna speak up that fast. It's being recorded. So I think in terms of like collaboration with like talking to other people, it's hard. But if it's just the teacher like sending info to us, it's relatively easy, but I think it's mostly the tutorials that are hard to grasp right now.
Mm-hmm. So,
Heather,
yeah, Corno?
Do I understand it correctly that one of the things that you really miss is the social contact here at the university? Is that correct?
Also, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think also like in terms of what I said, for example, that most people study at the library. Well, what happens often in the library is that like around this time people will be like, hey, let's grab a coffee together, have a little break, and now you're just sitting at your place. Maybe you're studying with your housemates, but you really kind of miss the social contact. And I think that's not only social contact in the sense of what did you do last night, but also social contact in hey, I'm struggling with this subject, can you maybe help me? Because I think that barrier is even larger now to go and ask people about this.
Yeah, so there's to be extra steps taken now to get that interaction going, where before you say, hey, I need some help with this, how are you dealing with this assignment? Also, how, considering the way we set up courses, we design our education, is this something we can, keep going? How critical is that component? Can we miss it? How does it look from a designing the programming perspective?
Well, I think our university is doing their best, and like Corne just said, like we had some tools already for 6 years ago, and I think one of the most innovative things was a few years ago was presenters wall, and all of a sudden everyone started to use, and now sometimes students says, oh no, not again, the presenters wall. I hope it brings some change, but so also in business economics, my only reason why as an academic director I think it would be important to record, capture the lectures, put it online, is because students can be ill. Now a lot more people are ill, or have other meetings which are, you can also think of a funeral or something, they just miss it. And I also have a lot of stories from students who say, well, it's sometimes really difficult to be in a lecture hall because someone behind me is talking, or the teacher is talking too fast, so I miss some important information, or the slides are not in line with what's talking. So it's not always easy for students to sit in a lecture hall and just listen. You're doing a lot of things at the same time, not only the teacher but also students. So some students say, well, and it's not always nice to see, but they don't go to the lecture, but afterwards it's online, and they take their books, make notes, watch the lecture or the tutorial, they can go back. So in the long term, I hope we get a more advanced system and not only recording these lectures, because that's a very simple way, and like Heather says, there is no interaction. And I think, and then when you look to research, it's the blended, the magical word is blended learning, but then we need to change our way of thinking as well. And that's rather difficult for teachers, because the easiest way would be go to this room and give the lecture and talk afterwards to the students. It's more, and especially with the interaction, like if we provide feedback to teams, if we would do it online, how? And how can we really give feedback in a proper way that we can also see? Because sometimes if you have face-to-face meetings, you just look at the face of the students and you see he or she understands it. And now it's also a little bit, in the current situation, I don't know what students are doing. And if they're intellectual, maybe I don't know always what they're doing, but I have more, we are more connected. Yeah. And maybe overall, I think we should not underestimate that the university or any educational institution, it's also a social place where people meet and not only discuss the content, but also...
I think you and Heather mentioned a good point, is social cohesion. So, Corno, is that something do we have solutions for that, or how do we... are we going to do a massive online dance party in the evenings, or...
No, and one of the things the university always emphasizes is that the life on campus and the living campus, that's in the strategic plan of the university, is a major part of our university. So the social cohesion is important. But I have a question for Astrid as well. How did all the people within your department respond to the fact that they were asked to do online courses? I know Kenny. Well, you're quite familiar with technology, and when you call me, you say, "Well, I have this and this is what I want. I have to arrange that." Okay, this is someone who really knows about technology. But I don't think most of the people within your department.
No, well, still, quite a part of our department is information management. So they are. I think as a department we score really high on online lectures. Well, honestly, I don't know why not. Well, of course, we have a department of management. It's rather big. So we don't have that much contact with everyone because, everyone is at home. Currently, I have my phone next to me, but we also have a lunch app as a department. So people start talking to each other. What do we need to do? And I think the real lecturing starts within 2 weeks. The second half of the semester or block 4, and then it becomes. I'm wondering what everyone is going to do, but I expect that everyone, due to this crisis, the threshold or the reluctance to do it online is lower. So I think it will be smooth, but it has, of course, impact, and it takes time for everyone to prepare.
Kenny, did it take you more time to prepare for this? And how much more?
Thanks for that question. Actually, our lectures were normally recorded anyway, so my default option would have been to do the lecture in the classroom, recorded it, or at home, recorded and upload it. However, I do think you can see the situation where you can replicate what you were already doing, or say, well, hey, wait a minute, here are some opportunities that we can now as a university also provide a social role. So if I'm recording it and I'm talking specifically about online collaboration, why would I do that lecture only for my students? Why not broadcast it on YouTube and make it online? Because I think if you talk about a living campus, that is one way to create the living campus, is by doing what we do, make it public and engage people that way. Especially in these times, we're not actively. Science takes a while, so I'm sure in 2-3 years there will be plenty of papers about this crisis. But at the moment, at the very least we can do is offer reflections and invite people into our digital community and knowledge that we can share.